Welcome to our live cast. What I want to be talking about today is some concerns that we have when the new administration comes on. And just to introduce myself, my name is Kaushik Rianchad. I'm an immigration lawyer. I've been practicing for over 22 years. We've seen the Trump administration before in action. We know some of the things that they're going to do because they did it before. One of those things is public charge. What is public charge? Well, when you apply for a green card, the sponsor of the affidavit of support needs to show that you aren't going to be a public charge to the government. Last time the Trump administration made it much more difficult to get a green card due to the public charge. I think it's partly discriminatory against people who don't have the means, and it affects people who don't have a high income. Those are the people who are affected the most. Another area of concern is consular processing. This is where you go to the embassy if you're applying for a green card. We expect to slow down, also become more difficult, a lot more denials. Another issue is that provisional waivers are to overcome the 10-year bar. That's the I601 waiver. If you're married to, for instance, U.S. citizen, lawful permanent resident spouse, or have a parent who's a permanent resident or U.S. citizen parent, and you enter without a visa, and if you leave, you accrue unlawful presence. If you apply for the provisional waiver, you can leave the United States, go to your interview. If you get an approval at the interview, you can come back in. There may be denials for other grounds of inadmissibility or even non-grounds of admissibility at the embassy that may happen during this administration. And we see that already, like with DUI, even though it's not a technical grounds for denial, they'll still deny the case. So what can you do? If you're working with an attorney, make sure you get them what they need to be able to file your application as soon as possible. What we saw last time with the administration, it doesn't happen overnight. It does take a little bit of time. Another area of concern are DACA renewals. I could foresee they might try to get rid of DACA renewals. So if you need to renew your DACA, I'd recommend that as well. What do we expect? History is a great way for us to learn. So let's look at the Trump history book. Sometimes denials just happen without RFEs. We can expect a lot more requests for evidence. We can expect a higher scrutiny and a higher level of investigation on your green card applications, questioning the validity of your relationship, for instance. We can expect to have multiple interviews, not just one interview before your case is approved, a lot less interview waivers. So those are all things that we expect to see to happen. I'm gonna open it up to questions. There is one question that I wanted to address that we got on YouTube, and that is if you came in on a K1 visa and then you got a denial for ground of inadmissibility, what are your options? Well, in that situation, you can apply for I601 waiver. And you can do that with the fiancé visa. Of course, you have to look to see if you're eligible depending upon what the reason of the denial is. So that's called based off of the ground of inadmissibility. For the fiancé visa adjustment and status application was applied within the United States and denied within the US. So you can apply for the I601 within the US. The applicant there would be the K1 visa holder. And you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between I601 waiver, I601 waiver? Well, I601 is not applicable in that situation because you're filing in the United States, you're not leaving the United States. The K1 holder's already in the United States. Do you think I601 waivers outside the country will take longer to process? They're already taking 28 months. So I have to be honest, the whole processing time thing is just pissing me off that the government's taking so long, because they basically lied when they increased the filing fees. You know, they said, this is to make sure processing times are not going to increase. You guys had to pay a lot more money. And we still saw processing times increase, like you mentioned, 28 months now for I601s. With Trump, yeah, I expect it to increase. So the sooner you get your application in, the better. I expect everything to increase in time with the Trump administration. That is a tactic to get people to not apply, to make it more difficult. In August last year, I came here with an ESTA. We both filed for the I-130 in November, and it's getting reviewed since December 5th last year. What do you think? First, with ESTA, you have 90 days to stay here. I'm not sure if you filed for I-130 485 at the same time to keep you in lawful status. That's really important. Also, if your wife's a permanent resident, the prior date needs to be current when the filing had occurred for you to be in lawful status. The prior date needed to be current. If it wasn't current and you went over the 90 days, then you're out of status. If you overstayed for over 6 months and over a year, that's a 10-year ban, and then you'd have to apply for I601 waiver. If your U visa was approved 2 years ago, when is a good time to apply? You want to look at the 3-year mark. and contact your attorney around 2 to 2.5 years to start preparing for your U visa green card. And just make sure you also apply for your U visa green card. That's really important to continue to maintain your lawful status. If you got a U visa, great job. Now make sure you go through the whole process and continue to maintain your status to get your green card. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining. You are the unsung heroes. You are contributing to the United States, making this country great. And we're a nation of immigrants. One of our core purposes is unification, because we believe in keeping families together, and we want to support you in that process. If you want, you can also connect with us, schedule a consultation. You can reach us at 916-613-3553, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.